everybody, this is VidHead85, and I am going to talk about some unlearned history. Episode 1. Take a look at this picture. I'm sure you'll know who it is, probably you'll know who it is in a second, but do you recognize this man and his name? What is the significance? If you know the answer, you would probably understand why I have a sense of revulsion when his name comes up. See, you'd recognize Adolf Hitler, his picture, Benito Mussolini, maybe Chairman Mao or Mao Zedong, or Joseph Stalin. We learned of these men and their brutality, but what of this man that you're staring at now? His brutality wasn't against his own people, the Belgians, but does the fact that the genocide happened to black people and that this remains unlearned, untouched history in elementary and high school education? So, King Leopold II of Belgium, who is he? King Leopold wanted a colony, believing them to be necessary to the prosperous Belgium. He set his eyes on the Spanish-owned Philippines, but that fell through. He settled on Congo. The pretext of his colony was very humanitarian, and as you can see from the slide pictured here, it fits into the benevolent ruler that Europeans always sought to be, but never were. See, the next part of it was setting up Congo businesses, or associations, an exploration by this man, H.M. Stanley, in the 1870s. He signed treaties with illiterate African chiefs who did not know what rights they were giving away. After the companies were set up and exploration complete, the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 gave King Leopold his private colony, and in 1884 the Belgian parliament named him Roi Souverain, or sovereign ruler of Belgium. He knew he had the deed now to Congo Free State, and in July 1885, the first settlement in Congo by Belgians took off. By 1890, the Congo Free State was struggling, but John Dunlop created what was called the inflatable tire. CFS, or Congo Free State, had rubber vines, which was harder to harvest than rubber from trees. Harvesters would have to spread it on their skin and let it harden. After it hardened, some skin and hair might come off with it. It was no matter to King Leopold because he wanted his rubber to continue his monopoly. At least it wasn't in serious competition with him. He had violated the terms of the Berlin Conference, but that was just another day in the neighborhood. Failing to get the rubber quota resulted in mutilations by cutting off one's right hand and village raids. Congolese were unable to plant crops and died of starvation, forced depopulation from their villages, and disease, and even sometimes they were shot for sport. It took a toll on all the Congolese under Leopold. In order to curb the sport shooting, Belgians and those under King Leopold had to confirm the number of bullets used with severed hands, smoked to preserve them, and sent back to make an accurate count. After all, bullets and exporting them was an expense. Whippings with the chicot were common, a daily occurrence. A Dutchman's face went white with fear when he saw the brutality of whippings by chicot. Don't worry, he's not human anyway, was the sentiment of King Leopold's Congo Free State. Eventually, King Leopold fought off Arab slave traders and had Cecil Rhodes to contend with, who wanted to expand his, Orange Free State. No. It was eventually called Rhodesia. But for beating back the Arab slave traders, he was hailed as a hero. Yet his detractors got attention from the media at the time. He was able to quiet them for many years, even bribing officials and buying the silence of the Catholic Church. Does that sound familiar? He also brought in companies run by his friends to lessen international criticism. One early voice against King Leopold was George Washington Williams, who wrote an open letter in 1890. He was once astonished by King Leopold and his philanthropy, only to be disillusioned much later. He had died in 1902 after his findings were not confirmed, or with his findings not being confirmed. But his voice wasn't the only voice that rose itself against King Leopold. Famous writers like Mark Twain, who wrote King Leopold's Soliloquy. Joseph Conrad wrote Heart of Darkness, based on his travels in Congo Free State. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote The Crime of the Congo, and others wrote about the horrific Congo Free State. By the early 1900s, one man who worked in Belgium that was like Eliot Ness to Al Capone would see this through to the end. He would be the man to take down King Leopold. Edie Morrell, along with Roger Casement, would be instrumental in taking down King Leopold and his Congo Free State. Morrell worked in Antwerp and noticed that guns were being sent to Congo Free State. What would a philanthropic venture need guns for, given the international recognition and King Leopold having lined his ducks up in a row? The deeper he dug, as well as getting leaked documents from officials, he was able to get proof of the atrocities King Leopold was responsible for, and at every turn he hammered the king. At first, an anonymous report confirmed everything that had been told before from many sources too similar to have been made up. Also, this was something that King Leopold could not counteract because he did not know the author. He had to face the facts. Morrell formed the Congo Reform Society with Roger Casement, and in 1903, the Belgian parliament set up a panel to investigate the Congolese atrocities. In 1904, they confirmed all allegations as true. The force publique wasn't a police force, but enforcers. After the findings were released, the governor of the colony committed suicide. This panel was a big blow to King Leopold's image as builder king and philanthropist, as well as a benevolent ruler, because the thing was, he commissioned many public works with money that he made from the Congo rubber boom. Not one to be outfoxed, he wanted to clean up the mess. He handpicked a panel that could counteract the British, but Edie Morrell, after the panel's report was submitted to King Leopold, it was secretly leaked to the Congo Reform Society. Now, Belgians would know it was all true. In 1908, King Leopold hands over Congo for 50 million francs. Parliament renames it the Belgian Congo. Belgium had now become an international embarrassment of a greedy king. King Leopold died 1 year later, and his funeral procession was booed. You may not find that saga in history in American or Belgian textbooks, and the Great Forgetting kind of ensured that. So videos like this helping us to learn that history is kind of rare, and necessary. You won't see his name involved like Hitler and the Nazis, but it was just as brutal, but maybe because the victims were black, or most likely because victims were black. The Royal Archives, Leopold had also burned to destroy evidence. After Belgian Congo, when Parliament took it over, rapid decolonization of Africa spread after World War II. And in 1960, Belgians handed the Congo over to an ill-prepared people, and with the help of CIA and other intelligence agencies, assassinated Patrice Lumumba in 1961, who was, in fact, like the George Washington of the Congolese, and a socialist. Mobutu reigned until 1997. He had also renamed Congo Zaire, and then later the Democratic Republic of Congo became its name. It had been a colony for many years with very little education, and now a history repeating itself where natural resources are a huge source of revenue. Democratic Republic of Congo is having growing pains as they establish themselves as an independent country that has to rule over millions. A lot of racist whites will say after 40 years they should be able to get it together. But then again, with a place that was not set up to support life, as let's say South Africa was or many other British townships were, it is interesting to think that after 40 years of independent rule that they should be any further along than they are. They're suffering through growing pains. And if anything, by comparison, even though it doesn't look like the Eurocentric standard of civilization after 40 years, the Belgians themselves were the savages. Congo had to export its natural resources, and the only infrastructure that was there was to do that. Now, Congo or Democratic DRC signed something with China saying that they were going to develop their infrastructure and then China would get some of the natural resources. So, like many African people and countries, we will survive and thrive. Being at a disadvantage, having to build up their country amidst a continent that needs to be educated and moving forward, it is, in fact, a dark continent where the light will shine once again. After all of this, I have to say that I am a little like blown away at some of the things that I've discovered that took place on the dark continent, as it was called. But if anything, I think that as Africa goes through growing pains now with the central government and trying to become a society that is capable of sustaining its people, I think that we're going to see amazing things out of the continent of Africa, where my lineage descends from. So this has been Unlearned History, episode 1. I hope to do more Unlearned History very soon. Thank you for joining me. And if you watched the whole video, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share this with a lot to go through and a lot to research. I hope you enjoyed it, listening to it as much as I enjoyed writing and preparing for you.